Ghana, we have a total of approximately 300 dialysis machines. The majority of these machines are in Accra and the Central Region. 4 regions do not have a single dialysis equipment. So those who need the service must commute long distances to Accra and elsewhere. Well, even if they have it in their regions, the cost of the treatment is such that for a majority of the people on dialysis, they have needed the support of the entire community, friends and family to be able to shoulder the burden. And many times, they can't do that for too long. You may know some patients and you have seen the circumstances in which they were before they died. Died because they couldn't afford the 400 or 300 to 600 cedis that is required in government facilities. What should a government be doing? The government be doing about this? What should we as a nation be doing about this? Elsewhere, this is so simple and taken care of by your health insurance. There is high teacher attrition rate, and it is said to pose danger to education. This year alone, some 10,000 teachers have relocated to the UK. Tells 2 stories that we have quality that the UK needs, even the UK needs. The education minister says, we don't have teacher shortage despite the circumstance. What we have is a distribution challenge. What does he mean? We'll try and break that down. Occupy the Bank of Ghana. The minority, NDC, and their partners mobilized thousands onto the streets, went to the Bank of Ghana premises. They laid out their concerns. The bank, supervised by Dr. Ernest Addison, has reported historic loss, and yet it is undertaking projects that cost us so much at a time that it is making losses. That it has printed 770 trillion Ghana cedis in 2 years for the Akufo-Addo-led government. What are the facts? But the governor has a reply that has got almost everyone asking if indeed he uttered those words. He described them as uncivilized and hooligans. And it's clear that he won't resign. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. We'll be right back to deal with the Vex matters.
close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh, yeah. Then my chick to him, I know correct. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now, so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudangwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, about Mobia, send you my way,
my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Since inception, almost 100% of Ashesi University students have found jobs, started businesses, or gone on to graduate school within 6 months of graduation. From Accra to Nairobi, London to New York, Ashesi graduates are noticed and they are leading successful careers. If you dream of a rewarding life and career, an Ashesi education prepares you for just that. Learn more about applying to Ashesi at www.ashesi.edu.gh.
Save big to welcome the new season. Give your mansion a new look. Messy. Get your house renovated. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. Our doors ranges from exterior and interior steel security door, bulletproof and armor door, wooden metal and panel door, glass and flash door. Edu Doormaster. The widest range of paint solution awaits you for your acrylic, emulsion, and animal paint. We also have in stock road marking paint, marine paint, waterproofing, damp-proof paint, Sisawo bathroom hall. More look fresh. Your luxurious toilet seat, basins, taps, on your latest vanities are purple B. Visit the Doormaster. Promo ends on 15 December. Call 0542-745-222. Henmon office of Pobi Montobu, Accra Kumasi Highway, Obeye, opposite the Forest Reserve, Sulunfianco, ACP, opposite Besham Temple, Tema Community 5, at the Pajanchen Hua, and Sawamedua. Doormaster saving promo is on. Hello.
You could be the luckiest.
About 1/3 of a million people live with HIV in Ghana. Close to 10,000 of them die each year, mostly as a result of a lack of antiretroviral drugs and adherence. In fact, close to 57% of children under 14 years living with HIV do not receive antiretroviral drugs, again as a result of inadequate funds to provide them with medication.
Life expectancy for these children is grim. The big worry, close to 16,300 people are newly infected with HIV each year. With this alarming rate of HIV infections, all of us are in danger, and Ghana is headed for an epidemic explosion if nothing is done now to avert it. While the Ghana AIDS Commission is working hard to overturn the situation, the Commission urgently needs funding support from corporate Ghana and individuals to save lives. We're therefore appealing to you, corporate entities and individuals, to support the National HIV and AIDS Fund by dialing *9898# on MTN and Vodafone and follow the prompts, or pay into the National HIV and AIDS Fund account number 101-863-161-3233, Bank of Ghana. Your donation will be used to prevent new infections and provide care for people living with HIV, including children affected by AIDS. For further information, please call Ghana AIDS Commission on 0302 919260 or email info@ghanaids.gov.gh. Give to save a life today. Ghana AIDS Commission, partnering to eliminate HIV and AIDS.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back. This is News File, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on News File, we put Ghana first. I have a very short take, and I title it, Who You Are in Article 1. Who you are in Article 1. And just a reminder, because I know you know who you are as far as the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana is concerned. I only feel sincerely that most of us demonstrate a certain lack of knowledge. And because of that, we feel powerless because we are not the president, we are not in the executive, so to speak, we are not, a judge, thus we are not the judiciary, and we are not in parliament, or we are not a minister, or we are not holding some power. You need to re-examine that way of thinking. This nation does not exist without the Constitution. As presently constituted, it is this Constitution that determines what and who we are. And this Constitution, I'm illustrating to you just by one article who you are. You've never thought about it in those terms. The Constitution begins with a preamble. And in the preamble, it begins by saying, in the name of the Almighty God. We, note that, we, the people of Ghana, not we, the executive, the parliament, the judiciary, or the minister, the DCE, we, the people of Ghana. And after saying several things, we come to affirm an important central principle. In the preamble, it says, and in solemn declaration and affirmation of our commitment to freedom, justice, probity, and accountability. The principle that, note it, all powers powers, not some powers, all powers. The power the president wields. You forget that you go to the elections and you make a president. That without you, there will not be somebody called a president. All the powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people. All powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people. We're still talking about the people. Now, to my focus on the Article 1. Article 1 of the 1992 Constitution says the sovereignty of Ghana. So sovereignty, which the preamble says is the basis of all the powers of government, and which sovereignty, the preamble says, springs from the people. That sovereignty is the power beyond which there is no other power. Of course, if you're a Christian like me, you'll acknowledge that there is another power. But that's not what we're talking about. Sovereignty is the power beyond which there is no other power. So if the Constitution of Ghana says all powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people, which is you and I, and then Article 1 says the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana. Don't end there. In whose name and for whose welfare, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised. You've given power. It has to be exercised in your name. So a president or a minister or a parliamentarian or whatever they call themselves, or a judiciary cannot act but in your name. Everything they do, they are doing it in your name, for and on your behalf. And the Constitution says it must be exercised for your welfare. Are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in the Constitution. I just felt I needed to re-echo this point to you. Don't feel powerless. Don't get into that office and let the person you have given a job to, that you pay every month, make you feel that you are the unimportant person. People in public office, that's why it is called public office. They are servants. They are not masters over you. That's your law. It takes you to make the law reflect what it says you are. So if you sound powerless, they will take advantage and make you feel powerless. Just by one article of the Constitution, see what power you wield. If you were to read the Constitution properly, you will see that you are really very powerful. And that is my take.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso.
Close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb set.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, send my way,
My name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Save big to welcome the new season. Give your mansion a new look. Missy, get your house renovated. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. Our doors ranges from exterior and interior steel security door, bulletproof and armor door, wooden metal and panel door, glass and flash door. Edu Doormaster, the widest range of paint solution awaits you for your acrylic, emulsion, and animal paint. We also have in stock road marking paint, marine paint, waterproofing, damp-proof paint, Sisawo bathroom hall. More look fresh. Your luxurious toilet seat, basins, taps, on your latest vanities are purple B. Visit the Doormaster. Promo ends on 15 December. Call 0542-745-222. Henmon office of Pobi Montobu, Accra Kumasi Highway, Obeye, opposite the Forest Reserve, Sulunfianco, ACP, opposite Besham Temple, Tema Community 5, at the Pajanchen Hua, and Sawamedua. Doormaster Save Big promo is on. Hello.
Thing is finished. Kofi, it's your mother again. Pick my calls, why?
Life is good for you today, but tomorrow may be different.
I was told to contribute to the SNIS scheme, but I refused. Now I depend on my children for my needs. It's maybe late for me now, but you can choose a better path.
Do not end up like Kofi George's parents, always depending on your children to care for you. No matter the work you do, register and sign up for Seed from SNIT for old age pension, invalidity pension, and survivor's lump sum benefit for your dependents. Take control of your future. Ayodachio, Fano Personal. Contact SNIT for more inquiries. SNIT. We deliver on our promise. T's and C's apply.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination. It's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
It's clearly a reflection of the disdain and the disregard they have for the Ghanaian people. I mean, how can you choose the IMF over the people who have employed you, over your employers, over the people you are supposed to serve? It's the height of disrespect.
I am disrespected. I am offended that he will send the watchman, the gate man, the security man, to come and receive a petition on monetary policy. He says he's a retired wing commander. For a wing commander, his business is flying planes. I mean, what has a wing commander got to do with monetary policy and inflation rates? But you see, this is a good indication of where we are. He has called for war. He will get it big time.
We all feel very much disrespected, and this speaks to the impunity with which Nana Akufo-Addo and his appointees want to run this country. But we are not handing over our petition to the head of security. It's like somebody wanted to present a petition to Parliament, to the Speaker of Parliament, and the Speaker delegates the Marshal, the head of security of Parliament, to come and receive it. It's the height of disrespect.
I feel very disrespected as the leader of the opposition in Parliament for a simple reason that we demanded to present a petition to the governor of the Central Bank of the Republic of Ghana, otherwise known as the Bank of Ghana. Unfortunately, he has decided to disrespect us, and his two deputies has also decided to disrespect us by not being here and to receive our petition. We never said we are going to present our petition to the head of security or someone responsible for security, with all due respect. The crowd you've seen is just the beginning. We will come back again, and I assure you, trust me, we will come back again. He should better come in here. If he thinks that the IMF is more important than the Parliament of Ghana, if he thinks that the IMF is more important than the people of Ghana, he's here because of the people of Ghana and not IMF. So let him deal with IMF, or we'll come after him. We will come after him. Thank you. Until we see him, we are not stopping. This is just the beginning. And not more.
Right. So, for those of you who didn't get the opportunity to follow, we just decided to give you, a bit of, a picture of how the streets look like. But I'm sure many of you have seen footages that show you the actual size of the demonstration on that day. Thousands just went out there, and there was gridlock, even though police was trying to ensure that there was free flow of traffic and everything else. Let me welcome my guest. Doing this first segment of the discussion here in the studio is Inusa Fuseni, former Minister, Lands and Natural Resources. He is also a lawyer. He's a minister in different portfolios. And very recently, he went to the rescue of demonstrators at the police station, just by hearing on radio that they were in difficult circumstance. Also, Professor Godfred Bokwin is Professor of Finance and Economics, University of Ghana, joining us for that discussion as well. Prof, thank you very much, and Honorable, thank you for making time to join us.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. So let's begin, because you were on the ground. Let's begin by finding out how you felt. I was following intermittently and then watching you give interviews, how you were excited to be there. I saw these young men who mobbed you. In one of the interviews, they were all over you. Some of them had their arms over you. you're getting old. You shouldn't be getting in there.
Yes, Samson. So first of all, I think that I need to thank you so very much for your position on Article 1, which is the prelude. Which is the prelude to this discussion. When people fail to recognize that the power of government resides in the people.
The ultimate power.
The ultimate power. The ultimate power. And that power must be exercised for the benefit of the people. And until we begin understanding these hallowed words in the Constitution, probably we will always think that we are secondary citizens in this country. So I thank you so very much. I was actually moved.
The citizens are careful. They know how they can see things that look discriminatory, even though the Constitution says they are not to be discriminated against. They've seen big people, quote unquote, people with status, class, so to speak, who get into the biggest troubles. And even when they go to court, they come out unscathed. Okay? They've seen people who insult judges. They berate judges. They insult them in a manner that nobody would even think about doing. And they get away with contempt. And they see that when they do the slightest thing and they are put before a court, they will suffer many years in jail. Some of them actually pre-trial detention. Nobody thinks about them, so they are aware. People who have threatened war and say, this tribe, if you see this other tribe, hit them, beat them up. They are put before a court and they are free. But if the ordinary person attempted a quarter of that, they will still be in jail. So people...
So we as lawyers and once upon a time law students, we've always discussed these matters in jurisprudence, not so. Is law meeting its ultimate objective and purpose? How can we make law more effective, efficient, and representative of the people? How can law be a tool for safeguarding the weak in society? We've always discussed these things. But my honest view is that it is not the trampled upon, the marginalized, the weak, who will fight for the recognition of that right. It is people like you and me who have been privileged, who probably have been educated by the resources of the marginalized, who will stand up and speak. And the Ghana anthem, our anthem, says that God should imbue in us, put in us the love or make it possible for us to cherish fearless honesty. Fearless honesty.
I love that line to bits.
Why? Because you must be fearless to talk about matters that clearly will inure to the benefit of the generality. And you must be prepared for the consequences. And that national anthem predates the 1992 Constitution.
So I was saying that you have served your country. I do not expect you at this time when you are supposed to enjoy some amount of rest, good rest, to be on the streets.
Yes. So sometimes I can relate. I can actually relate to the young men. Me and you come from areas that were not very endowed. The fact that we are here speaking to Ghanaians means either our family invested in us or the communities invested in us. But there are people still in the communities, not so. The motto of the Commonwealth Hall of the University of Ghana is
True Stance.
No, the Legon Hall.
Okay.
Hall. To whom much is given, much is expected. I mean, can you imagine all the privileges we have enjoyed growing up? The fact that you could go to your uncle and say you're going to school and they will give you money to go to school.
Yeah.
Your uncle has grown and gotten children. Does your responsibility to your uncle end with your uncle? responsible for the children. And if they are growing up and the country in which we are managed in a way as to compromise their future, don't you have an intergenerational responsibility to ensure that your actions now will create a better future for them? And we, how is human progress recorded? You have children. You pray and hope that even though you've achieved national stardom, your children will achieve African stardom or world stardom. That's how progress is recorded. You can't hope to be better than your children. Then that's retardation. So yes, I've been given tremendous privileges to serve this country, but I still can relate to the pain and suffering of the youth. And I told you 2 weeks or so ago that I had a stirring in me that what the young men came out to do was right and legitimate, and that no action should be taken to frustrate them. They should be allowed to talk about how they see things and whether the way things are going would better their lives in accordance with Article 1 of the Constitution. The same consideration animated my thought when the NDC, together with civil society organizations, decided to embark on a demonstration. Yes, I'm NDC. But what is the demonstration about? It's about recklessness.
We'll talk about what the demonstration is about, the purpose. But that is supposed to be hooliganism on the part of members of parliament, legislators, representatives of the people in parliament who have other civilized avenues to vent the same, plaint.
Well, that statement from Addison has been condemned by all right-thinking people, right-minded people. Because you see, we all know, and your listeners know, that the demonstration was made possible by Article 21 of the Constitution.
Article 21(1)(d)
D of the Constitution.
Right.
Now, and so that is a legitimate basis for the demonstration. And we all know that Article 33, even if Article 21 was not in the Constitution, Article 33...
Article 21(1)(d) of the Constitution 1992 is about general fundamental freedoms. 1D says all persons shall have the right to freedom of assembly, including freedom to take part in processions and demonstrations. Please go ahead.
So that was the basis from that. Now, to say that that's hooliganism is to challenge the premise upon which that right has been granted to Ghanaians.
Guaranteed to Ghanaians.
Guaranteed, actually. Thank you. So again, you have bring me back to the philosophical discussions that animated the halls of University of Ghana. Well, so it's guaranteed. So it's a recognition that that right must exist, and the Constitution guarantees that. So to say that that's hooliganism is to attack Article 21 of the Constitution, Article 21(1)(d) of the Constitution. And there is a way of attacking provisions of the Constitution. You sponsor an amendment to change it. That's what you do. I mean, if you don't sponsor an amendment to change it, that provision becomes part of the worldview that Ghanaians, our founding fathers, thought that the people of Ghana should be guaranteed those rights. Now, two, let's look at the de facto reality. From the Obra Square to the intersection between the courts and the Ghana lotteries and Shiraj, where we ended the demonstration, there was not a single incident of lawlessness. In fact, the leaders of the demonstration were at pains to calm down the restless youth who thought we should defy the police. In Samson, I was there, and I can tell you, all through the march, there were decisions taken by the police on the spot of the moment. Whereas they had agreed earlier that some routes could be taken, on the day of the demonstration, they changed them. But the demonstrators acceded to that, because we not only are Ghanaian citizens who are interested in the betterment of the country, but we also are respectful, lawful, or law-abiding citizens of this country. And so, when we got there to the opposite Ghana lotteries, we had expected to see the governor of the Bank of Ghana behind the police cordon to receive the petition. We were only told that we should elect some representatives of the demonstration to go and meet Addison. And everybody knows what turns out. But to say that for Addison to be ensconced in his office, to say the things he said, smacks of extreme level of arrogance, or a failure to understand his duty to the people of Ghana. I choose my words carefully. To the people of Ghana, not to government. Addison has been somebody who's gone through the educational system, has invested in himself. He's worked at the international level. He knows about fidelity to the law. He knows. There cannot be justification for a breach of the law unless those justifications are provided in the criminal code, or in Criminal or Other Offences Act, now so called. Now, is it justification to steal your neighbor's property on the basis of the fact that you are hungry? Is it justification? Or is it justification for an ambulance conveying a sick person to the hospital who needs medical care, knock down somebody at the traffic lights? The justification. And so, fidelity to the law is always very important in discharging your duties as a public officer.
He says, I want to resign.
Well, so
that's the purpose.
I agree
that he should resign, his deputy should resign. He says, I want.
Yeah, so I agree that I already anticipated that he would say he won't resign. And I know the president will not sack him because the president hasn't got that history. So even in situations where the president would have sacked, he's advised those people to resign.
You mean the president will not demand his resignation? He will not sack because the president doesn't have the power to remove him.
The president doesn't have the power to.
It's a process.
It's a process.
That
but the president can initiate the process. You get it? The president can initiate. Why did they give the Bank of Ghana operational independence? Again, this question that you have asked is very important. And so you look at the web and you see clearly that probably there's something wrong with our governor.
I know that when political leadership doesn't want you as a governor, if they don't want you to stay a minute or a day in that bank, they can do it.
You can do it.
In the same way we see when power changes, the swiftness with which the new government or new leadership is able to remove governance of the bank. But you know that the president does not, in the letter and spirit of the law, the president cannot get up today and write a letter and say, get out of that office.
Oh, the president will not do that. Because
he can't do that because the law does not allow it.
If he does, or the president has done other things other than that. But if he does that, it will be an egregious violation of the breach of the status of establishing the Bank of Ghana. Now, sometimes there are what we call gray areas in the law. The president can exploit those gray areas. The president could not have sacked the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, your client. But there was a way.
So she was not my client.
Who was your client?
I took a constitutional interpretive issue.
Oh, she was going to be a beneficiary of that.
Acting as she would have been a beneficiary of that. But she was not my client.
Okay, she didn't pay.
Kokubako.
Kokubako was the client. Okay, so you see, he didn't take a direct route to sacking Charlotte Osei. But Charlotte Osei, the end result was that Charlotte Osei had to go. Okay. The president has since received numerous petitions from Ghanaians. And you have said consistently that a violation of the constitution that demands the declaration of assets within a certain period of time cannot be excusable. That those public officers who have done that should go. And I share that with you. But they have not gone. So there are many things that the president can do, and there are gray areas. So he will not go. The president will not initiate any move or get people to initiate moves to let him go. The president, in fact, why the president will not let him go? I mean, once upon a time there was a governor of the Bank of Ghana. He had not stayed through his term. He was called one Dr. Abdul Nasser Isahako. When the MPP won election 2016, in 2017 they came to the conclusion that they could not work with him. The late Osei Akoto in Parliament, in one of our discussions, said, "Oh, sir, we can't work with him. We can't work with him. So we're going to pay him his severance award and he will go. We can't work with him." So, but we have known that in the United States of America, the head of the Treasury, or what was his name, lived through many administrations for consistency in policy. But why did the president say he could not, or the government said they could not work with? Because of what has happened. You need somebody who will put partisanship over national service, or patriotism, or the duty to his law, or to the law establishing his institution, to be able to bend the rules in your favor and do so with impunity. I have said that when you look at what happened at the Bank of Ghana, and particularly, and many people have said, well, and even yesterday somebody was still arguing that, oh, we need to celebrate him. We're not saying that we won't celebrate him. We're saying that we will celebrate him when he does the things properly. You know that if a law says that you cannot do certain things, and you want to do those things, what you must do is to take steps to amend that law.
Right. So let's not go back there. Finally to you, and then I'll go to my other guest. By the constitutional architecture, the Bank of Ghana governor has legal protections.
Yeah.
Just like a judge of the Superior Court, just like the commissioners of the independent constitutional bodies. So, once you are convinced that the president first cannot remove him, is the reason you are appealing to him to resign, or demanding that he resigns. He says, I will not resign. As we understand, you are planning to have not one, or perhaps even more, of these demonstrations for the same purpose. Will he not be justified to say, you know that there are civilized processes that you can use, and yet you are embarking on this hooliganism?
I don't want you to go to that route, because the Constitution itself guarantees the right to demonstrate, and we cannot say that the Constitution having guaranteed the right to demonstrate, our country is an uncivilized country. That argument cannot hold. I mean, you can come to a deductive conclusion on the basis of that argument. Two, our Constitution has similar provisions in other jurisdictions, but those jurisdictions, more established democracies as they are, people still manifest civil disobedience and demonstrate.
Even spontaneously?
No, spontaneously.
You don't need this 5 days notice.
Even coming to you today, I was just thinking that, how can you call that demonstration lawless? And I saw you posted unlawful assembly. Then I said, oh, then we are in trouble. Because when churches go on retreat, do they take permission from the police? So if a church goes on retreat and they are praying, and another church comes there and says that premises that you are occupying, or that plot of land that you are on, saying your prayers, is my plot of land and I won't allow you. That assembly now has the potential of degenerating into violence. Does it immediately change into unlawful assembly? Does it? And well, let's come back. So there are many jurisprudential questions that we can ask.
Okay.
But because we are exploring this and trying to expand the frontiers of law, let's say that and all agree that demonstrations, and I said it 2 weeks ago, are very important in advancing our democracy.
Our Supreme Court has confirmed that when the MPP in 1993 took up a suit challenging the question of permission to demonstrate, which has led to a new law because the Supreme Court pronounced that it is unlawful to require the demonstrator to seek permission before they demonstrate. In that matter, the Supreme Court recognized that this is not only our fundamental human right to demonstrate an assembly, it's not only inalienable, it's not only our birthright, and it's not only guaranteed by Ghana's constitution, but it's guaranteed by the African Charter, it's guaranteed by UN, other instruments, and so on and so forth. So it's not only in Ghana's laws that you find this. Let me go to Professor Bokwing. Prof, we are going to ask you to help us with whether it is justified because of the demands that they make, the reasons that inspire the demonstration. But before that, briefly, what's your comment about this demonstration in the first place? Remember when they wanted to start, the police went to court and said this is a security zone. They mentioned that terrorists, there are terrorism activities. They mentioned coups going on, and for fear of all of these things, they didn't want the court to allow it. Eventually, it's been allowed. People have asked questions, very basic issues, because right at that place, you have the courts there. So even if you gave them the routes to pass and they are using the courts area and all, the courts, they are not security places. Yes, what do you say?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning to our co-panelists and our listeners. I'm not so much of an expert in these areas, demonstration, the rest of them. It appears that I understand GDP much better than the way people should demonstrate. But I think I've learned a lot listening to Honorable this morning. My considered view is that if you look at the whole architecture, from the judiciary to the security services and all of that, it doesn't appear that we are working consciously towards deepening our democracy in a manner that perhaps we've seen elsewhere. Okay, and therefore, and part of this also is the fact that, and we also see it playing out with the way Bank of Ghana has been behaving, that there's a certain submissiveness to the political party in power or the government in power much to the detriment of the common good. And therefore, even if demonstrations are legitimately premised, have very good reasons and whatever, and probably could lead to a good outcome, it appears that for the sake of allegiance to government or whatever, we tend to tamper with that. I had said before that in a very serious country, maybe the governor of Bank of Ghana would have resigned long ago. It doesn't have to take a demonstration. Because, so if you look at, and I'm saying this because something over the years or over the decades, in fact, since 1992, part of the macroeconomic instability we have seen in this country has largely also been supported by the central bank through accommodating monetary stand, which ultimately enables the political economy or the fiscal side to actually be reckless. To that extent, the checks and balances that one would have expected to come from the central bank. And it's for this reason that over the years, as a country, we've worked hard to generate the operational independence of the central bank. And I want to believe that the central bank, the Supreme Court would equally affirm the operational independence of the central bank, because as a horizontal accountability institution, it's good for our democracy. And therefore, whoever presides over the affairs of the central bank would have to be mindful of the fact that they are there first to protect the institutional independence. Under this circumstance, we've seen Bank of Ghana not playing that role effectively. I could give you a little bit of statistics just to put this within context, so that as we reform going forward, we build forward better. Because what we are discussing here is not peculiar to only this regime. I've said that time and again, just to give context, except to say that the level and the magnitude of the deficit financing and the debt financing by the central bank is unprecedented and shouldn't have reached that level also. We can debate that. And I think it's from that perspective that one could reasonably conclude that the performance of the central bank was suboptimal.
The demonstrators repeated to us the bank cleanup, or what others prefer to call bank collapse circumstances. They repeated to us and said, look, these are guys who have spent in excess of, 27 billion of our hard-earned money doing something that didn't work. Microfinance companies, Atuforsen refers to them that they were targeted. According to what he had to say, he said these companies were targeted and collapsed by these leaders, 426 microfinance companies. He said linked to the NDC were collapsed under this thing. And that the expenditure we made is part of the reason our economy couldn't take the shock when the world began to suffer some of the problems that it suffered. Some of you, the experts, were on our platforms explaining to the citizens why these measures were good measures. So are there reasons, the best reasons for the demonstration, before we come to the laws and the headquarters building?
Yeah, something. This is an interesting question. I had held a view before, and I still stand by that the financial sector cleanup was necessary. And I had maintained, even on this platform before, that the vulnerabilities that crystallized towards the end of 2016, running to 2017, which occasioned the financial sector cleanup, had started way back towards the end of 2011. The data is clear. Non-performing loans and all of that. We had maintained that the first asset quality review that was done 2015 clearly had indicated vulnerabilities in the financial sector. The decisive responsiveness didn't come the way it should. You can go through the IMF supported programs, the 16th IMF supported program from April 3rd, 2015 to April 2019. That is clear. So we were of the view, and I supported the central bank, that a certain level of cleanup needed to be done in order to reposition the financial sector to make it a bit more robust to support economic growth. That's clear. However, we have also said that given the amount of money that had been spent and the lack of transparency in the financial sector, cleanup raises questions. And we have maintained that this should independently be investigated. That it cannot be that we didn't know. Bank of Ghana should have presented the overall plan and how much it was going to cost the ordinary Ghanaian. Transparency, full disclosure. We saw what happened in the case of the US in the run-up in their financial sector cleanup, the global financial crisis, the relationship between the US Fed, Congress, and all of that. That should not be lost on us. And I think that, yes, if you look at how much we have spent, the lack of disclosure and transparency and all of that, clearly it raises questions about the financial sector cleanup. We will not run away from that now. And we've made that known. And I want to believe that, and also, you see, there are other things that are coming up now that wasn't visibly maybe available then in terms of politically connected businesses or financial institutions within the sector and how they were treated relative to others and the rest of them. I think we should all be bold enough to say we shouldn't have gone that way. That businesses should be allowed to thrive regardless of which regime is in power. I think that is very clear. And I think we are not running away from that. I think, and the fact that we also supported the financial sector cleanup, yes, but the form and the ultimate cost to the Ghanaian certainly raises questions. And we've made that known long ago.
Right. So if we move away from that point that that expenditure of 27, now we hear sometimes going to about 30 billion, which we have instituted a levy that I don't know how much of that levy can repay that money. If we move from there, and the fact that led to weakening, if you like, call it the economic shock absorbers. And because of that, when the world situation came, we became so vulnerable, and that's why we are feeling it the way we feel. They are saying, and they have explained, that the historic loss that has been made at the Bank of Ghana, I've forgotten what the percentage is. You clearly should have it at your fingertip. Was expenditure
60.8 billion cedis.
That the chunk of the expenditure went to the DDEP, which is for us to help a recovery, to help recover the economy. So, on that basis, will you say that such a demand is justified, that he and his governor should resign?
I think the explanation of Bank of Ghana doesn't stand. I take exception to that. Something, this is how I'm looking at it. We had crisis, of course, before COVID-19, before Russia, Ukraine. there was clear evidence that the country's fiscal vulnerability was very high. It was clear. Just to give context, Ghana officially entered a high-risk debt distress category in 2014. As part of so when the government in 2014, actually it was on August 6, 2014, when the government made a call to the IMF for our 16th IMF supported program, which kicked in from April 3, 2015 to April 2019. One of the drivers was debt unsustainability. So the IMF supported program then had as part of the objectives to restore debt sustainability, among other objectives. When we exited that IMF supported program in 2019, we still could not achieve debt sustainability. We were still a high risk of debt distress. As a medium debt carrying country, we were still at that point. Now, from the end of 2019, internal debt sustainability analysis done by Ministry of Finance itself had similar conclusion that our public debt was unsustainable, even before COVID, even before Russia, Ukraine. So the pre-existing vulnerabilities were there. Great. COVID came, and in the wisdom of Parliament, they felt the need to suspend the Fiscal Responsibility Act because the Act had imposed a limit in terms of the level of fiscal deficit that could be created at 5% of GDP. Now, Bank of Ghana, my considered view, I'm not a lawyer, is that could not have used the mere suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act as a basis to disregard its own act that imposed a limit on deficit financing to the tune of 5% of government's previous year's fiscal revenue. I don't think so. And that is why I say that explanation from the central bank cannot be appropriately placed in here. Now, the reason I'm saying so. Hello?
Go ahead. I need us to wrap up. Yeah.
So I'm not like, but that's how I see it, because there's a reason why the 5% limit is in there. If you want to go beyond that, there is an escape route. It's not like there is no other way. The lack of transparency, the lack of disclosure surrounding this whole deficit financing, even at a time when it was largely a public information that the central bank was printing money, financing the deficit, this was denied.
But
we have designed our central
but Prof, when Dr. Kaisel Atoforsin says they have printed money to the tune of 770 trillion in 2 years, is that fact?
No, I'm not too sure the minority leader was talking about 700 trillion because probably I know that the deficit financing or net claims on the government, including overdraft and the rest of them, as at the end of 2022 was 77.6 billion cedis.
So billion, not trillion.
Yes, okay. 77.6 billion cedis. That was the amount. If you express this as a percentage of government previous year's total fiscal revenue, that was way in excess of the 5% limit.
Okay.
But something, this is a real issue. And why, and I think Honorable in your still also talked about that, why politicians would almost always prefer somebody they can manipulate to be at the central bank. Something, look at it this way. Between 2008 and then 2012, the level of deficit financing by our central bank went up by more than 600%. In 2012, which was an election year, the level of deficit financing, at that time, the Bank of Ghana Act only allowed 10%. And this 10% is what has been reduced to 5%, even though under an IMF arrangement, we brought ourselves to zero financing. The level of financing, according to our current vice president, when he was in opposition, was more than 45% in 2012, when the limit was 10%. In 2013, the level of deficit financing was around 36% when it was supposed to be 10%. Now, it was this that created the inflationary pressures and the debt-induced macroeconomic instability that took us to the 16th IMF supported program. The response of the IMF was that, given the deficit financing, the unexpected inflationary expectations could no longer be unexpected. So one of the program objectives was to eliminate the fiscal dominance of monetary policy. We went through that.
Okay.
We are back to the same point now, right? Now, if you look at what we are talking about here, the level of the deficit financing is unprecedented. So much to the extent that we have actually reduced the balance sheet of the central bank to nothing, a huge negative. Look, we should bear in mind that when the central bank's balance sheet is rendered worthless, the way we see it here, it undermines the moral legitimacy of the central bank in monetary policy conduct and regulation. It also signals to the markets that the central bank, in its attempt to claw back, would likely be aggressive with fines, and with a little infraction, you'll be imposed with fines because the central bank needs to make money to repair its balance sheet.
Okay. Prof, thank you very much for your time. Just in 30 seconds before you leave us, what will change if these officers were left the bank?
Well, it is my considered view that there should be consequences. Otherwise, as a country, we can't move forward. There should be consequences. What we are talking about here is unprecedented, and I think that I've given you data across the two main.
It's unprecedented in extraordinary world economic situations. No, that's what they are telling you.
You can see relativity. You can see marginality. It should not be the case that we are in this solely because of the external shocks.
Okay.
You can check Ghana's inflation across other countries. You can check the public debt data. You can check level of financing across even our peers and the rest of them. So it's a very lazy way of saying that everything is external. No.
All right.
We also don't discount the external impact. But let's accept responsibility. And let's make amends in a way that inures to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian.
Thank you very much, Professor Godfred Bokwing. I can only give you some 2 minutes, and then we take a break and come to look at something that has both positive. The education minister suggests there's actually no negative, so we should not be worried. That in 1 year, 10,000 teachers trained with our hard-earned money. You know how we sacrifice to take care of our teachers and to train them. They have left. They are in the UK. But the fact that the UK is looking for Ghanaian teachers is credit to what we are doing down here, isn't it? Yes.
Well, so when Professor Bokwing was speaking, my mind immediately went to the phrase or word that came up during the COVID, comorbidities. And that is what has gotten Ghana to where we are now. That's gotten Ghana bankrupt. Since that there were already pre-existing vulnerabilities. Deficit was high, debt unsustainable, inflation was high. Then COVID comes. Then Ukraine-Russia comes. It collapses you totally. But one thing that we must all know is that we cannot accept the explanation given by government and the Bank of Ghana. Because we are living in a global community. And that's where the relativity plays in. So how come that Africa is not suffering the same? Or how come that East Asian countries are not suffering the same? Or Latin American countries? And only those who have failed in Latin American countries or in East Asian countries to manage their economies properly, like Sri Lanka, are going through the same problems with us. So that is the problem. But lastly, Samson, Again, coming back to your Article 1, because power resides with us, the least we expect of public office holders is absolute honesty, brutal honesty, and taking responsibility for their actions. Now, if you take a decision and the decision does not pan out well, as a public officer, you not only have to engage with the people of Ghana in honest talk, you also have to accept responsibility. I think that in this case,
we don't have that culture.
We don't have that culture. That's why we are where we are. We are always struggling to defend the indefensible. That is the problem. And you find it in political parties. Sometimes when you speak out of turn, your party even condemns you. But you must be honest.
I'll confess to you, the most worrying part of that is where you see intellectuals that you had so much respect for, that you actually went down there and supported demonstrations that they organized over minor issues, and you see them defend the completely indefensible. It's difficult. And let's see how it goes. But you not presenting your petition to the head of security has also come up for discussion. But since you say you go back again, let's see what happens.
But Spencer, you know that the Constitution categorizes officials at the Bank of Ghana or at any public institution. We have principal officers and other officers. Is the head of security part of the principal officers of the bank?
We understand he reports directly to the government.
Is he part of the principal officers? No. Not.
Okay. And on that note, if you have heard anybody suggest, particularly Paul Admochire suggest that Samson has written somewhere that demeaning comments that was a watchman, please treat it with a bag of salt. I have not said that anywhere, and I have not written it anywhere. He purported to quote me twice on his show on Tuesday and on Thursday, and trying to, throw mud at me on his show. It's completely wrong. I've said no such thing anywhere. My father, in the last 10, 15 years of his life, was a watchman, and I was proud of him. We'll be right back.
Oh, Charlie, close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh, yeah. Then my chick to him, I know correct. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now, so stylish frames in the rock.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Osudangwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, send my way,
my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Creativity and imagination, student leadership, citizenship, critical thinking and problem solving, digital literacy, collaboration and communication. For preschool, we have literacy, numeracy, phonics, and writing. For kindergarten, we have literacy, numeracy, our world and our people, creative arts, phonics, writing, and picture reading. For basic 1 to 6, we have mathematics, science, English, our world and our people, computing, history, religious and moral education, creative arts, Asante Chi and Equiapim Chi. For basic 7, 8 and 9, we have mathematics, science, religious and moral education, social studies, creative arts, career technology and computing. And we also have questions and answers for all subjects. We have provided links and QR codes under the various topics in our books to link to the world and find out what other people are also learning. Contact us on 0507 200 200. Best Brain Publication. Tomorrow's education today.
Ekapenu eya enunti me tufu se abibere o twadea unsa nkoto no emprelu na me kanfo SCP ama SCP ewo tema shahel ehwa na factory kese no esi enye na apɛ pavement blocks ankasa ɛna de edisi den biara no okɔ shahel SCP ebema obi se upese usiu dan na apɛ ogu concrete enya fina akoto cement akopa abo akopa nwia ofre SCP a the concrete ya messing the with quality cement wom omba be good kama amount so whatever afienya dodowa aflawo bon any impatem wonyinara your office I was Printers Road yani papaya restaurant in the division
for SCP was 0501 672 608 and our toll free number 0800 626 262.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the Onward Lounge.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
Ghana is one of the few countries in the world where there's no teacher shortage. We have a deployment challenge. We have so many people waiting in the wings to come and teach. You may go to an urban classroom where there are 2 teachers in the classroom, and you go to Sabsugu and we have a shortage. I'm happy that Dr. Nkansa has committed that we're going to ensure that this deployment challenge is no longer the case in the next few months.
Government is working assiduously with relevant stakeholders to produce teachers who meet the changing dynamics of the 21st century teaching profession. The Ministry of Education, through the National Teaching Council, NTC, has been empowered to implement policies and programs at both the pre-service and in-service level to ensure that Ghana continues to produce and maintain the quality teachers we need in the education transformation agenda. To improve teacher quality and their skill set, the NTC has instituted the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination to ensure that graduates recruited to teach meet the professional standards set by the regulator and that they are fit for purpose. In addition, the Ministry of Education, again through NTC, has institutionalized a point-based continuous professional development system that ensures that our teachers do not remain stale but stay competitive and relevant in the ever-dynamic world of knowledge and skill.
You heard the Education Minister, Dr. Educhum, and the President. on the occasion of the Teachers' Day and teachers receiving some congratulations and being acknowledged for all the good things that they do, the good teachers do for the country. So let's begin this conversation with our next set of guests, Dr. Christian Adaipoku, Registrar, National Training Council. He, broached the subject earlier in the week about the 10,000 Ghanaian teachers who have relocated to the United Kingdom. Reverend Isaac Owusu is president, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. Dr. Clement Abbas Apak is MP, Bolso South, Deputy Ranking Member, Education Committee, and Member, Public Accounts Committee. And Richard Ayaba is with the New Patriotic Party, heading their communications. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making the time to join us. And let me first go to Dr. Adaipoku. Doc, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and greetings to your panelists first, and then entire Ghanaians, especially teachers of Ghana who are working so hard to train the minds of our future.
Right. And forgive my asking this question in the way I'm going to ask you now. That you must feel a sense of pride that teachers trained in Ghana are hot cake in the UK. You don't?
Oh, I am something. If I'm to go back to the statement I made on last Tuesday, I made it clear that in the past 5-7 years, government has instituted a number of policies to ensure that the quality of teaching is improved in Ghana. And this includes the reform of the teacher education curriculum framework that we used to have, improving it and bringing it to 21st century teaching and learning process. Establishing teachers standards, bringing about continuous professional development, which is so crucial to Ghanaians because a teacher's knowledge must be updated continuously to be in tandem with the modern trends of teaching and learning. Among other interventions government put in place to ensure that the quality of teachers is improved. It is based on this that in January early this year, we had a visitation from Department for Education in the UK. They came to study our system to be sure that Ghana actually is training teachers to the standard that's globally accepted. And after going through our system, going through interviews with some of the leadership of National Teaching Council and other stakeholders in education, they concluded that Ghana is producing teachers of high quality based on the licensure exam, the National Teacher Standards, and so on and so forth. And so Ghana plus 3 other countries in Africa were exempted from the rigor of approval of qualified teacher status in the UK. That is, to be very specific, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. If you're a teacher in these countries and you want to teach in the UK, the normal rigorous nature of assessment that you need to go through to get qualified teacher status, you don't go through that now because it's expected that you have gone through a lot here in your country and therefore you qualify to teach in the UK.
Right. But
based on this, they opened up to Ghanaian teachers, and then lots of agencies are across the country recruiting teachers.
Right.
I must clarify here something that the statement I made was that the data we have, 16,000 people have so far applied for qualified teacher status in the UK. Out of that, 10,000 have been issued. But that is not to say that all the 10,000 have left. So some have left, some are still in the process, some may go, some may not go. But they have been given qualified teacher status.
Right. Whatever the circumstance, this clearly, in this situation, is a danger, isn't it? How many teachers is a country training yearly? And if on the average, we're beginning to see such flights of teachers, then say even half of this number is going to leave the country every year, then we have a problem on our hands, don't we? Just like the issue with the brain drain as far as doctors and nurses are concerned.
Well, it is not as alarming as you think. And all the same, I won't say that it is not a challenge. It is. But it's not as alarming as we are seeing it. On average, we are turning out about 30,000 teachers who pass licensure examinations every year. And it is not everybody that is absorbed by the Ghana Education Service. And so we still have a lot there who will be able to replace those who may leave. But the challenge is, if they are leaving, sometimes you get experienced teachers leaving, and you need to bring people, train them to be able to get to the level that these people might have been. But all in all, it is not. There's no teacher shortage in Ghana as of now, because
you said, Doc, you said this was a looming danger that ought to be curbed. So what is it?
Yes, the looming danger here is the experienced teachers who are leaving. And that is our worry, that experienced teachers are leaving. And if experienced teachers are leaving, and the nation is spending so much in the training of teachers, and we are not getting anything from them, then it becomes a challenge. So the conversation at the symposium was, how does government earn or get a yield from this attrition? Because we are training a lot of teachers in the country. We are not able to absorb them. Of course, we want to see some of them go. That's fine. But we are investing so much in these people. And when they are going, we are not getting anything from them. So the conclusion at that time was maybe government to government collaboration to make sure that some people are taxed for leaving after we have spent our money to train them. But the danger here is getting some experienced teachers leaving the system.
All right. Please hold on, don't move yet. I will return to you. And I'd like to now go to Reverend Isaac Owusu, who is the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Christian Adepoku used to be president of NAGRAT. How do you assess this particular development? Are you looking at it from the same lenses as Dr. Christian Adepoku is doing and the Minister of Education is doing? Hello, Reverend Isaac Owusu. Oh, I understand we just lost him. Let's get him back quickly because we need him to give us his perspective, because he is leading the Association of Teachers. He's leading teachers, and we want to feel what is it that is driving them. That's also important to know. Yes, Reverend Isaac Owusu.
Samson, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, teachers. Thank you very much. God bless you for what you do for us.
Well, let me say a very good morning to my teachers in the country, and let me say a very good job to all teachers in Ghana. You know, the number one nation builders are teachers. So, and also let me say good morning to your panel members in the studio and my senior brother, Dr. Christian Adepoku.
How are you processing the statistics? Are you doing them from the lenses that Dr. Adepoku is doing or Dr. Educhum is doing?
Something, you know something. For the Minister for Education, he is a politician. And certainly there is no way the politician in Ghana would make challenges easily like that. My senior brother, Dr. Christian Adepoku, is heading an agency mandated by law to regulate teacher professionalism in Ghana. And they deal with data. You see, apart from what the registrar quoted, that 10,000 are successful to go to UK. Samson, there are others who are already in Canada. There are others who are already in South Africa. There are others who are already in China. You see, day in, day out, any teacher in Ghana who gets opportunity is ready to leave. It isn't that the teacher didn't get the requirement to teach in Ghana, but the condition in which the teacher is working. That is what is demotivating those who are running out of the country. And to talk about teacher shortages, look, if you go to our rural areas, schools on the island, yes, of course, we agree that in terms of teacher deployment, all the big men and big women in the country, they do not want their family relatives to be teaching in this remote area. So you go to Accra, you see a class about 2-3 teachers in one class. But when you go to the rural area, schools on island, a whole basic school which needs about 16 teachers, you only see 3 teachers, including the head teacher, managing class 1 to JS3.
So when the minister says we do not have shortage, what we have is a distribution challenge. You can't dispute that then.
Something, you see, nobody can tell us in Ghana that we do not have teacher shortage. If it is about distribution, what stops them? Because you have already employed the teachers. Then the teacher deployment is equally dangerous as a strategy. Because we believe that politically, every school-going child should have the teacher standing before him or her, giving him whatever the child needs. And if we now admit that all our teachers are choked in town and in cities, then that one is equally dangerous as a strategy.
So how do we have a problem of shortage when we are training about 30,000 yearly, and if on the average, if you have even say half of that number leaving the country, how can you still talk about shortage of teachers? How does that happen?
Something we are with the teachers down here. I can tell you in authority that there are lots of schools in Ghana under pre-tertiary that are crying day in, day out for teachers. You go to the district directorate, the directors are always compiling vacancies to the regions. The regions are always also forwarding the same vacancies to headquarters. So the solution, or the one to give you that answer, maybe someone from the Ministry of Education will be in a better position. But what we know as union is that there are a lot of classrooms that is begging for teachers. If indeed we have a lot of teachers in Ghana, then government will open up and recruit these teachers and fill the vacancies. Then we can vote off that the Ghana, we don't have any shortage problem. If we have them, what are they doing? If we have people have passed through training colleges, they have passed through universities, and they are home, you count them as teachers. Presently, what we know is that there are a lot of classrooms that is begging for teachers. And the conditions in which the current teachers are working in is not best.
Interesting perspective there. But Dr. Christian Adepoku said his major concern from where he sits is that it is the best of the teachers who we are talking about when it comes to those who are leaving, and even the UK, it's okay with their training without more for them. So, Rev, I want to ask, this clearly, that aspect of the issue clearly will impact on the education outcomes if we're having the best who are happening to leave. In the course of the week, I spotted these statistics about the developments on the education front. And my heart was gladdened that in this country, we can look at the fact that the core subjects, English, integrated science, mathematics, and social studies, where people were performing poorly previously, for some time now, there's a sustained improvement. So that integrated science in 2015, you had 28.7% pass rate. And now, from 2019, for example, in fact, since 2017, they have not done less than 50%. They've done 52, 62, they've gone to 65, up to 65. Then if you take mathematics, where say in 2015, you had the performance rate, pass rate at 32.4%. If you look at that record from 2019, they have done in excess of 60%. Only 2021, they did 54.11%. Social studies, English language, very, very encouraging reports. If these trained, experienced hands are leaving, then that is the major problem we must be dealing with. Agree?
Exactly, something. You see, when you look at the outcome of the teachers' work, it is clear that Ghanaian teachers are really doing well. But the income that comes to the teacher, it's one that is demotivating him or her to go to UK. The teacher, let me recommend and let me acknowledge NTC for the what they are doing in terms of the teacher professionalism. But one thing that it has not come to the attention is that yes, the policies you are bringing, the reform is good, but the income that is coming to the teacher. Because if I have now globally, I can teach anywhere, and I see a colleague in China who within 2 years has been able to at least have a car of his own or her own, has a two-bedroom to lay his or her head. And I have done close to 15 years in Ghana. I do not even own a bicycle. Certainly, if I get opportunity, sometimes I will leave. Because the income that is coming, it is not good. So that is why we are saying that until we add the better condition of service for the teachers. You see, if the teacher realizes that now I can compete with any other teacher in the world, and of course, those who are receiving the Ghana Teacher Prize, I think some of them even went to African Union and they were able to receive some awards. It shows us that yes, the policy formulators and the employers, what they should think about that, yes, once we are bringing this globalization standardized, then we should also make sure that we have equal income that will not even deter the teacher from even thinking of traveling outside the country.
Okay, thank you. Hold it, Reverend Isaac, so hold it on there for me. I return to ask what are the specifics from where you sit as president of NAT that is lacking, and what can be done to improve that situation. Now, back to the studio with my guest here, and Dr. Clement Apak, ranking on education. We have heard you many times on the issues in the education front. Can we isolate this particular situation and see how the potential it has to do some damage to our system. And as we saw, these experiences are the reason why 2020, 2021, 2022, the free SHS graduates, the only years in the past 8 years that more than 50% of the candidates have obtained A1 to A6 in all core subjects. What they need in the core grades for a student to qualify for admission into tertiary institution is A1 to A6. And this is commendable that they have done 50% A1 to A6.
Well, Samson, let me say good morning to you and my co-panelists, and to say good morning to the people of Bucha South. Just a minor correction. I'm the deputy ranking member.
Deputy, sorry.
On the Education Committee of Parliament. I can't start without saluting our gallant teachers who have sacrificed enormously and in the recent times at the peril of their own lives and comfort to ensure that they continue to train the future of this nation. We are all on this panel today by virtue of teachers who have taught and nurtured us from essentially nobodies and no names into persons of value, not only to our families, to our communities, but to our nation and the entire human race. As the son of a teacher myself, and as somebody who was in academia until recently, I know firsthand the value of education. And if you know the value of education, you must know the value and appreciate the work of a teacher. Something I have argued based on my own experiences in other parts of the world and seeing the way the educational systems have been set up and the way they function, that if I had a choice, the group that should receive the most recognition, receive the most remuneration, should be teachers, not politicians, not engineers, not doctors, not architects, because all of these other categories of professionals are produced by teachers. So if you look at some of the countries that we ought to be looking at for best practices, you'll notice the working conditions and the conditions of service for teachers are usually at the very top of the ladder. Unfortunately, we seem to want our teachers to give up their best, but we don't seem to be conscious of the need to ensure that they are properly motivated in terms of their conditions of service and the working conditions. And I think that is where the debate is, if you were to listen clearly to Reverend, who obviously is representing teachers and is on the ground. We would come to the figures with regards to the grading and how we have improved over time.
But that's a very important issue you raise.
No, I'm not.
No, there is a very important issue you raise about the remuneration.
Yes.
Because as the Reverend Isaac also speaks about, it appears this is the reason they are leaving.
It is.
Okay? And unfortunately, you will live in a country where a politician's or a public officer's salary can take care of a teacher for perhaps the whole year.
Well, yes, so essentially what I'm saying is that we need to reconfigure because this is not acceptable. It is not best practice. And so why are we maintaining a structure that is not going to motivate and encourage the teachers to give up their best? They are doing a lot already, but we know they can do even better. So what is holding us back as a nation, as a society, in putting our money, as the saying goes, where our mouth is?
That's right.
If we recognize the role of teachers, if we recognize their value, if we recognize their indispensable
contribution, we say their reward is in heaven.
No, and that is part of the problem. In fact, their reward cannot be in heaven. Their reward must be here. They are human beings like us. They have the same challenges like us. They go to the same markets like us. They have the same expenditures like us. They also suffer the brunt of an economic downturn. They are suffering from the current levels of inflation.
So it's agreed,
yes,
that better remuneration,
that is it,
will resolve this problem.
I agree.
You are moving.
That is it.
You are moving to.
Now, I just wanted to comment on some of the figures that were given and provide you a few more figures. Christian Adaipoku, the registrar of the National Teaching Council, indicated that annually we churn out about 30,000 teachers, right? And of course, we have 46 colleges of education, which are public, and we have a number of private colleges of education as well. Now, he sought to also explain and justify the comments that he made. And I think he made these comments a day prior to the World Teachers' Day. And he indicated in that comment, which was largely circulated in the public media.
It appears it was strategic, so that it got discussed at the
well, it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
I would say it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Because that has given us a proper context.
Right.
But for what he said, the Minister for Education and the President of the Republic would have gotten away with the very flowery language that we saw them express, very clearly trying to, praise themselves for a good job well done. But now we know, based on the debate that Christian Adaipoku's comments have generated, that this is not all rosy. There are serious issues to be dealt with. Now, the minister in his comments indicated that Ghana was not experiencing a shortage of teachers. And I am very happy that the president of NAT has openly challenged that assertion. Because how do you define shortage? The shortage and its definition must be contextualized. It must be based on the needs of the particular segment of society that is shortchanged as far as that shortage or lack of shortage is concerned. So if we take my constituency of Busa South, for example, as the president of NAT rightly said, if I agree with him, because this is what is happening on the ground. I have schools in Busa South where you have only the headmaster or the head teacher, a basic school, manning entire KG to lower primary, that is primary 4. So you can't tell me or the people of Busa South that there is no teacher shortage. It is not their responsibility.
No, factually, is it not what the minister said? Distribution rather than a shortage. And because you have them, except there are places where you don't have them in the numbers. So the president of NAT says there are schools in Accra, you go, they are in excess. And then you go to a school in a rural village somewhere, and there's 1 or 2, and they need more.
Well, that's why I'm saying the definition is relative, because for me, there is a shortage. For my district director of education, there is a shortage. For my communities where you have a junior high school with only 2 teachers, there is a shortage. It is the responsibility of the minister to address the issue. The minister shouldn't lament with us. We should not be hearing the minister tell us that there is no shortage, but rather the issue has to do with distribution. What is he doing to ensure that when teachers are posted to Doninga, my community, or Bachongsa, or Bedemlisi, they take up those appointments, they go there, and they stay to dispense their responsibilities. That is not our role, that is his role. So he can't expect us to accept and swallow hook, line, and sinker his argument that there is no shortage, when in fact on the ground,
what happens to us as citizens, as members of the community, being patriotic also, and thinking about where we have come from? So 100 people get qualified to become lawyers. When is it they are going to call another batch of lawyers? You see a good number who may have come from some, town or village. in the end, 90% want to stay in Accra. Nobody wants to go down there. Meanwhile, there's not a single lawyer available to provide service. That's about us too, isn't it?
Yes, I agree with you.
Because you guys have told us about the good old days, so to speak, where you are being posted to a village and you are happy about it. Even national service, you are very happy to go to a remote area. But today, everybody is trying to cut corners so they stay in the town, in the cities.
Well, I know very well that you would agree with me. The reason why this happens, and the reason why a lot of citizens are not willing to make more sacrifices, is because they know there are certain conditions of service that they ought to benefit from. They know there ought to be certain minimum provision of services to allow them to be able to take up those appointments in those areas and to be able to thrive and to do the work that they ought to do. How do you expect a teacher who is entitled to 23 different categories of allowances, and you are giving that teacher only 3 of the 23?
This is in reality?
Well, you can ask the NAT president. Yes. A lot of them are not getting what they deserve. So when the teachers speak about conditions of service, these are some of the issues. Randy, Randy, something. The other issue has to do with the inertia as far as Ghana and the ministry is concerned. We ought to put in these remote rural areas the needed basic structures. We need teacher accommodation. We need to provide basic amenities, even if it is solar. And then we need to motivate them. As in other parts of the world, Ghana is not the only country with very remote areas. The question we should be asking is, how is it that in those other countries where they have remote areas, teachers are willing to take up appointments and to stay in the rural areas to teach? That is because they have made conscious efforts to put in place the basic structures and amenities to make it tolerable for teachers to go. I have argued, for example, that if we were to look at the Canadian example, before you send the teachers, or even before they graduate and they are posted, you have some agreement with them. Those teachers who are willing to take up appointments in the rural areas, government can say, well, we have put there a teacher's quarters, there is solar, we've provided some TV, a fridge.
Basic.
Because we are far from, the urban area or the nearest town, you get a motorbike, source of transportation. Now we say, look, for going there, you sign an agreement with us that you'll be there for 5, maybe 4, 5 years. After you've done all of that, government then gives you a scholarship to go for further studies. There are even countries where teachers who take up appointments in remote rural areas, like in Canada. We have very cold parts of Canada where nobody wants to go, where the Inuits live, for example, very cold environments. You get your salary plus half. Do you think that teachers will not go? So it's all about the conditions of service. So if we want to be honest and sincere in addressing the challenges facing teachers, these are some of the practical things that we ought to do. And very quickly, you see, to me, there are 2 main issues that we ought to look at as far as the welfare and output of teachers as we expect them to dispense are concerned. The conditions of service and the working conditions. The working conditions are also atrocious. Atrocious. Samson, as you sit here, you are hosting a program. If your working conditions are not at par, you don't have the tools to execute your work, how would we expect you to give up your best? Imagine you didn't have your laptop. Imagine your teleprompters were not functioning. Imagine your producers were not available. How do we expect you to be excited and motivated about coming to host your program? And it is the same with the teachers. They don't have textbooks. Several years after the introduction of a new curriculum, the textbooks are still not available in every school. For 8 terms, government has failed to remit capitation grants. And capitation grants are the reason why public basic education in the Republic of Ghana is free. So when you are not remitting the capitation grants, where headmasters can procure chalk, attendance registers, can fix broken doors and windows, get masons to patch, cracked walls, finance sports, finance cultural activities. How do you expect the teachers to be excited about their work?
Yeah, but there's an interesting part. You see the statistics put out there. You can look at it.
Yes.
If this is what the teachers are capable of in the absence of textbooks, is it a question that there is a certain change in policy that you disagree with, or it's really about textbooks?
No, the issue is to give them the tools needed to execute their work. They are doing well. So what that means is that if they have the full complement of the tools that they need, if their working conditions are also at par, then they will do even better. And that is what we are all asking for. So if under these conditions, we are getting this level of output, that logically would mean that if the conditions of the teacher improve,
right,
we would even see better results than we are currently.
Thank you very much. Richard, you must be disturbed from where you sit that the state, for example, there was an issue about teacher training allowance. We said, let's scrap it. Let people pay and get in there. This allowance, let them find it themselves. Nursing training allowance. We said, let's scrap it. You say, we'll restore it. And then the NDC came on a campaign and said, we will also, reverse it again. We'll bring it back. And this is state money being expended to train. We know how our nurses are moving in the numbers. And then teachers are beginning to take a similar toll, Well,
Samson, good morning to you and good morning to Dr. Park and your viewers. I think I should commend you. Every so often we'll criticize you in the media for moderating in a certain way, but I want to commend you for consistently keeping it to the issue and the comment you made off air, that if you can just take away the politics and focus on the matter, I think we'll be doing our country services. Great commendation. I think you deserve to be commended for that. The Minister for Education really framed the issue for us, and it is that we don't have shortage of teachers, but then it's a deployment issue. And once after I answer your question, it is an appeal I will make to my senior, because I've done some work in his region, not in his constituency specifically, where I found out that what he's saying is true, that when you post teachers to these rural communities, they don't want to accept it. And where I sit, I get calls from people every time that, can you help me facilitate and transfer from here? I want to come to Accra, I want to come to here, I want to come to there. That's a problem. And you see, the appeal I want to make to my senior is that as a member of parliament, he's a legislator. We can look at the policy of how is it that we are trying to ensure balance and equality in allocation of national resource. I think you can help me, Samson. I think it's Article 36 and the directive principle of state policy that says that we should make conscious effort to balance this development between rural and urban areas. So if that is the policy, then you are properly seized with a legislative capacity to make policy in that direction, that government allocation of resources must prioritize rural areas so that these kinds of development that must be there, build schools, ensure that accommodation is prepared for people when they go there. Some allowances is given to them. Maybe their professional development also, there's a special regime created, an incentive to drive the acceptance of postings to those areas. Okay, so that's a policy situation that as a ranking member, you have a responsibility. So not all the issues are political. It is a practical issue that we must deal with. That's why we are leaders. And by the way, Sina, you are also part of the government, part of the branch of the legislature, in that trio government structure. So you have a responsibility to execute in that regard. You see, Samson, also, the issue about people leaving to pursue better economic opportunity is part of people's economic right. It is something that is been part of history forever. And so that is not an issue necessarily to say that government is doing this or is doing that. It's a question of people giving the chance. People will take a better opportunity if they can have it. So the issue is, how do we make education and teaching attractive? And it's a policy conversation we must have. I think the government has done well so far, but the practical issue that requires all of us to pitch in and just say that it has been a historical problem. People don't want to accept posting to the rural areas. And you ask a very important question. Is it something that we as citizens also must accept responsibility? Because if at the end of the day you've been given teacher trainee allowance, nursing trainee allowance, you have finished school, government has spent on you. In fact, one of the motivation for paying those allowances is that you will accept
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so right now the teacher association groups and all of that should not be looking to government. They should be looking to their group members and asking, you accepted to take those funding?
I think there's a great deal of fairness in this particular commentary, and as citizens we must also embrace that, and so that we don't have these sections of society, hold government to ransom all the time. That your training is being paid for, and immediately you are done. You are not even waiting for a day. You are looking for the next ticket to go and give that service to another country. That's unfair.
Yeah. So I think that we should look at it, and how is it as a people we can resolve this issue. It takes a whole village now to look at this issue. Let's not apportion blame. And I think the minister was candid and honest in saying that our problem is not necessarily the numbers, it's the acceptance. And I'll tell you, I have seen it. I have seen it firsthand. I have videos. There's this organization I'm associated with, CDS Africa, has an initiative. I think we had a chat with the minister about this. Went to the Upper East, Northern region, Upper East, Northern region, Northeast. And what audit we did shows that we have a school where there is only 2 teachers. To manage from in some cases kindergarten or primary to primary 6, and they are torn between the classes. There is a class we see where the two, because there's only one teacher teaching about 3 different classes, they're all in the same classroom. And other classrooms are abandoned. So the point is a situation where we have to look at ourselves and look at the teacher associations and say, what can we do? What are the interventions that must come? And so perhaps as members of parliament, we can look at specific interventions that we can bring to ensure that we are able to ensure that teachers posted to these rural communities can go. I agree that we have teachers, but then they don't want to accept posting to certain places. And I don't begrudge them, but I'm only saying that when the state has spent on you, you have an obligation to the state to accept the postings that you are given to do that national service that you've been paid to obtain education for. So I think that the issue must be a social conversation, and we find solution, not a partisan conversation.
Right. So Dr. Christian Adepoku, fair to require of the teacher to also give their fair due to the state that invest in their training. But the question that arises is, make it a bit tolerable for them. You agree? Are we doing so?
Yeah, something. For teacher motivation, it is always a challenge. It has always been with us as a country. And I think the attrition rate, even though teachers going out can be turned a bit by improving their conditions of work and then their conditions of service. However, it's clear that we cannot really challenge, when it comes to competing with the advanced countries, it has always been a challenge. UK will always outmuscle us in terms of teacher recruitment and so on if we are to pay. I don't know how much you're going to pay. Can Ghana pay £2,000 to a teacher to be able to retain that teacher in Ghana? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And with Brexit upon UK, a lot of the other European countries are leaving. And so they have turned their attention to Africa for the needed manpower. So this is something to be with us, and as a nation, we need to have a conversation around it. But going to the challenge of getting teachers retained in the rural areas, I've been in the system for a long time. I know a number of interventions that have been put in place, but they have not been successful. For example, there was something that was sponsored by government of Ghana and Global Partnership around 2010. And it was on Train Teachers Program, where we go to the rural areas, we take people who have a little education but not qualified to go to maybe college of education or university and give them further training. When we train them, whilst we are training them, they are still in the rural areas teaching. And then when they finish, they are expected to retain them there. Whenever they are able to finish, they get a diploma and they know that they are now regularized. The next 1 year or two, they leave. The government of Ghana has also over the years introduced what we call a study leave program for teachers. And in the study leave program, if you are a classroom teacher, 5 years, you qualify. But if you are in the rural area or deprived area, you are supposed to get a study leave within 3 years maximum. There are so many things that the government continues to put in place. But unfortunately, it's not working because people see that the challenge of living in the rural areas is not limited to just accommodation. It's not limited to just monetary issues, but a lot of infrastructural issues. Where I talk upon my completion of college, I had to walk about 3-4 kilometers when I alight from the town to my village. And to be able to get a car back to Kubase, I had to wake up around 1 a.m. to go and sleep somewhere. I mean, these are typical challenges that a new person coming to the system, if you send the person to that area, will know what to say. It's a challenge, and it's not only in Ghana. Honorable Park, I respect to you, Honorable. In Canada and all those places, they still have those gaps there. They have a lot of incentives there.
Yes, but Doc, some of the teachers who are leaving, they are leaving to rural settings in these other countries. They are leaving to places that the conditions may not be exactly different from what you have in your rural settings in Ghana, correct?
Of course, but if a rural Canada, of course, cannot be compared to a rural Asante or North or, I mean, it cannot be compared.
Right.
And so beyond that, the remuneration there is also highly competitive compared to Ghana. So definitely people will go.
Especially when they hear about the amount and they quickly do a configuration conversion into CDs. Oh no.
That's one. Over the years, even before this exemption was given to Ghanaian teachers were going to the UK, they were going to Canada, they were going to the US. But I think now with the relax of the rules, it's making it easy for people to go.
All right.
And that is what is happening. So I think government attention should be focused forward. One, making sure that we continue to train more. Two, making sure that we incentivize the teachers as much as possible to stay. And then three, making sure that those who are going are also levied to support the training, because government is spending so much in training.
That's right.
So if we are training or going, we need to find a way of making sure that when you go, you also bring back something to the country.
All right.
The last one, let me say that when it comes to the rural area deployment and so on, over the years it has been a fight. If you have heard about teacher rationalization before, when I was Naga president, we were fighting this. Government has always made it a point that they want to rationalize, but they are not able to do it because our collective agreement makes it clear that if you are married to somebody and the person is in a city, you have the right to apply and join your class. And so people capitalize on this, and every time people are leaving. You go to a typical school in Accra, a class that's supposed to be handled by one teacher, you can have 3 teachers handling it. You go to Busa area where Honorable is coming from, a class that is supposed to be handled by 6 teachers, maybe you have 3 teachers. That is the kind of situation we have found ourselves in over the years. Radical measures must be taken to make sure that maybe minimize the impact.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christian Adepoku, who is Registrar, National Teaching Council, and we'll hear the last word from Reverend Isaac Owusu, President, Ghana National Association of Teachers. You were about also to outline some of the solutions to reversing the looming danger. What for you will be top of your list?
My members want immediately is to see an improvement in their working conditions and the condition of service. You see, since 2009, in our collective agreement, government is supposed to give the teacher who has set posting in the rural area 20% of his or her salary. Something if a teacher takes maybe 3,000 Ghana cedis, what will be 20% of 3,000 Ghana cedis? And since 2009 till today, that we are having this program, successive government and government in power today has not been able to implement it. Just last year, a teacher who worked on one of the islands in Kasi West, the month ended and he went for his salary. He did some shopping. On his way back to his house, the boat he was in subsided, and the teacher passed on. A very young teacher. You see, so if a teacher can work in Ghana close to 30 years, and then this teacher is giving 10,000 Ghana cedis as a pension gratuity, there is no way if a young teacher sees that my senior, who has worked for 30 years, some 40 years, and they are giving 10,000, 50,000, 20,000. When we know that even this amount that I'm mentioning, it is somebody's per year. It is somebody's weekly disturbance allowance.
In respect of the top up for accepting a posting to the rural area, are you saying it has not been implemented at all, or it is done
at all since 2009 till today? And our current collective agreement has expired August this year.
What explanation has been given for the non-implementation of such a sound policy?
You see, when the parties agreed in 2009, GES claimed that it was difficult to define rural areas. Yes. So in the 2020 collective agreement, now there was a clause that the teacher unions, together with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and GES, will set up a committee to now go around the country to identify different areas. The committee was set up last 2 years because we started implementing the new one in 2020. Last 2 years, the committee was set up till today. The committee's report has not been given to the teacher union, let alone to implement their recommendations and findings.
That's obviously unfair to you if we cannot tell which is a rural community, and we have to set up a committee to do that, and even that we are not getting a resolution. Then I think leadership also ought to sit up as far as such matters are concerned. I'd like you to state maybe one more point, and then we can take a break here.
Then I think finally the working environment matters. If you post a teacher to a place that there is no accommodation, there is no potable water, the person cannot even make a phone call to raise his or her family. Some of these things demotivate the teachers from going out. So that is why we at NAP, every year when we are celebrating what teachers do, at least we also do something. This year we went to Kwakubusia in the Western North region, the district, to put up 2 classrooms per pavilion for KG children. You see, so, and then I also want to admonish the Minister of Education and GES that if it is teacher deployment that is the problem, once they are able to identify it, God willing, next year at this time, we will also be discussing the teachers matter. And we are expecting...
But Rev, you are not suggesting that if you are posted to a place where there's no easy access to potable water, it means that place should not have a teacher, because the people who live there, they are surviving. They may, so you two must find a way. Some sacrifices, is that not it?
And I don't know any professor that has sacrificed more than teachers in Ghana. Something. Where do you see a man and his wife having a small cottage, and this family decides to train their children? Certainly you will see a school there. Where you can locate a school, you cannot find a police depot or a clinic for chief compounders. So when it comes to sacrifice, no professors have sacrificed their teachers in Ghana. All
right. Okay, thank you very much, Reverend Isaac Owusu, President, Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. We'll take a quick break. We'll return to look at the issue of dialysis. And we're a country that's clearly, we have very many problems, but the solutions is the issue, how to look at the solutions. We have as many as 5 million Ghanaians or people in Ghana who are suffering kidney disease. Kolebu says has to take care of this 700 or so people needing dialysis, but they can't help it. They need as much as about 4 million every month if they have to be able to sustain what citizens are insisting must be the status quo, and that the price for doing it should not be increased. We'll be right back.
Your own person, unique, one of a kind, special. That's why you deserve everything tailored to suit your particular taste, your preference, your needs. Just like MTN Just For You. You can get customized offers tailored to who you are. Dial *141# or use the MyMTN app to get to choose from a variety of offers made just for you.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
About 1/3 of a million people live with HIV in Ghana. Close to 10,000 of them die each year, mostly as a result of a lack of antiretroviral drugs and adherence. In fact, close to 57% of children under 14 years living with HIV do not receive antiretroviral drugs, again as a result of inadequate funds to provide them with medication.
Life expectancy for these children is grim. The big worry, close to 16,300 people are newly infected with HIV each year. With this alarming rate of HIV infections, all of us are in danger, and Ghana is headed for an epidemic explosion if nothing is done now to avert it. While the Ghana AIDS Commission is working hard to overturn the situation, the Commission urgently needs funding support from corporate Ghana and individuals to save lives. We're therefore appealing to you, corporate entities and individuals, to support the National HIV and AIDS Fund by dialing *9898# on MTN and Vodafone and follow the prompts, or pay into the National HIV and AIDS Fund account number 101-863-161-3233 Bank of Ghana. Your donation will be used to prevent new infections and provide care for people living with HIV, including children affected by AIDS. For further information, please call Ghana AIDS Commission on 0302 919260 or email info@ghanaids.gov.gh. Give to save a life today. Ghana AIDS Commission, partnering to eliminate HIV and AIDS.
Emirates Premium Economy. One day, all airlines will have seats like this. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Luck is everywhere, for everyone, yeah.
Doctors,
Nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers.
bankers, the luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
FM.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Peter Doe Jr. says absolutely the BOG governor's action and utterances show an extreme level of arrogance and impunity. He lacked understanding of democratic right to demonstrate, calling Ghanaians and MPs uncivilized hooligans, quote unquote. He didn't say that they are uncivilized hooligans. The comment said they are hooligans, they are the resort to hooliganism, and that there could be civilized processes that they could use. It's rather unfortunate, and he will live to regret it. Little Tete says that if people in position of power are not made to be accountable, then ungodliness, injustice, and oppression will continue to be the order of the day. Speak out. Harrison Madate says the governor was absolutely right, even though his words were a little bit drastic. The minority in parliament had ways to channel their resentment, not to protest. They deserve the backlash anyway. Really? Nihibote says, cause financial loss to the state and calling protesters hooligans is disrespectful. Tagging everyone who protested NDC shows the governor has no respect for us, the citizens, and what we practice isn't democracy. Ajay Bediako says, Ajay Bequin says, you actually have the authority to employ, decide on locations of postings. You have the power to reorganize, and yet you have the effrontery to lament and argue with us on whether or not there is teacher shortage, distribution problem, etc. Oh, my motherland, Ghana. Ashura Jr. says, can you imagine that this community I got posted to doesn't have access to network, not even a clinic? And the worst of all is the availability of transport. So I'll tell you, if I have a conversation, that's part of my problem with you, that there's no network. You mean internet connectivity. That's the life of the people. Of course, yes. Everything must be done to take in connectivity everywhere in the country. But this is how the world actually is. Not every corner will have it at a certain time. So you make that sacrifice. That's why you are giving extra. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Let's get to talk about how people are dying because they don't have money. That's bottom line. They can't afford the cost of dialysis treatment. That's why they are dying. But before that, is it Dr. Tony Edu? Dr. Tony Edu says that the executive determines policy. The legislature actualizes it in law. Ayagba must cut out the sophistry and petitio principii argument. NPP took credit for free SHS, which is also a policy prescription under the directive principles of state policy. All right, thanks for that message. Kofi is a researcher. He says that, I should be asking why those who refuse posting to rural areas get postings to schools in Accra and Kumasi. That's a good question. When you post people to the rural area and they don't like it, how come they find themselves in Accra and Kumasi? Why?
Well, because there is some reasonable levels of corruption.
We should stop it. Yes.
I mean, I just got a message to that effect that some of them pay anywhere between 10 and 15,000 to get reposted.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And when I was referring to Ato Forcing speaking about 770 trillion, I'm reminded that he was saying trillion because he was referring to it in old currency. You know how the politics will do it when we want to make it sound really humongous and scary. Then we say old cities. So, all right. Okay, thank you very much.
You're all guilty of it.
Now, you're all guilty of it, eh? Okay. So, my guest for this very final segment, Dr. Tatios Bayo, a senior lecturer, University of Ghana Medical School consultant, gynecologist, and clinical epidemiologist. Okay, you know that he's interested in becoming an MP, but he's a professional, and we're engaging him on that score in this discussion. Dr. Opokuware Ampoma, Dr. Opokuware Ampoma, is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He's come under some fire in the course of the week before also, because of what people saw to be a sort of a backtracking, because it appeared they had announced the increment in the fees already and had started implementing it before they came to say, well, there was some slip somewhere, right? In the studio is Dr. Clement Abasa Park and also Richard Ahiagba. They will speak to questions of policy. So let's begin by watching this brief clips. There's a minute and two or so of these clips. So before that, Newsfile is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and as close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 solid years. Duroplus. They produce quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tank. Where Duroplus goes, water certainly flows. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. My Way, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Flamingo paints, simply superior. Snit Seed, self-employed enrollment drive. So you don't just have to be someone who works in the public sector to be able to contribute to SNIT. That's what this is about. So get involved because it's your future. So you own it. Best Brain Publication, Tomorrow Education Today, and Haptel. It's everything you. So take a listen to this.
The doctors told me I have to be on a machine, and I have to be on that machine either twice or thrice a week. My mom and dad do not have money either. We have become miserable. I am appealing to the government to help me live through this. Otherwise, I may die. I want the government to support me so I can live to fulfill my dream of becoming a nurse.
It has affected because, one, the dialysis process itself takes 4 hours. You go to the hospital and the machines are not enough. So usually where I do mine, that is the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, because we don't have a lot of the machines. I get to the hospital sometimes before 3:30 a.m. just to go and queue. If you don't go early, it means you are not going to leave there early. So you can imagine, even if we go and then this is a queue and he comes before me, he spends 4 hours. So it means that I will be sitting down waiting 4 hours before he gets to my tent. Then I also go on the machine for 4 hours. So virtually 8 hours is gone. So sometimes you finish and you are drained, you are tired. You get it. So thankfully my bosses understand me, so sometimes I get that flexibility to sometimes go to work and all.
You're one of the lucky ones. So far the people I've spoken to unfortunately have ended up dropping out of work because it's just
that's true.
Tenable.
NHIA, as we all know, has its own set of constraints. It's a scheme that was funded 20 years ago. This year we're celebrating 20 years of the scheme. But what is critical is that the funding to the scheme has remained almost the same in terms of our premium collection. As it stands today, there's conversations, and this has started, of course, based on your documentary. Even at the NHI level, the board is discussing, there's a committee that has been set up to have these conversations about dialysis, its implications, if NHI can do anything about it, and most importantly, make recommendations for the policymakers. And I'm happy Senior says there's a lot happening in that space. The Ministry of Health drives policy in our landscape. So whatever recommendations that the board will come up with will be passed on to the ministry and the policymakers for a direction on where we go. But as it stands today, by law, the renal disease is on our exclusions list, which means that we will not be able to fund that as we speak.
And this is just one organization that is trying to do that. And of course, over the course of time, inflation, exchange rate issues have hit the cost of in terms of the dialysis kits. So there was a need to do an upward review. Unfortunately, as you said, there was some administrative lapse. So this was introduced prematurely when it shouldn't have been so. And so once it came to attention of management, we immediately ordered for it to be withdrawn and for them to revert to the old charge. So we go through the process to get the fees approved, and then the new fees can be applied. If there was no justification for the increase, the proposal wouldn't have come in the first place. So there is a need to increase. As to what specific quantum the increase will be, it will only be determined after it has gone through the entire process, including Parliament, and then that can be. I'll come back to you for a lot more.
Right, so just a representation of the circumstance that kidney patients are going through, and then you also heard from some of the, people that must be heard. In fact, Dr. Ampoma is right here with us on this discussion. Thank you so very much for making the time. And very unfortunately, some of the kidney patients that you heard speaking, one of them, the girl, she died. Now, Doc, I'm starting with you. I mean, Dr. Opokuware Ampoma, Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I took time off and I heard you guys on the very important program, Thought Leadership Program on the dialysis crisis for almost 2 hours. Very inciting discussions. We have very limited time for this afternoon's discussion. We want you to go to the jugular and tell us how this can be made easier for kidney disease sufferers. How can things be made easier for them? Over 90% of Ghanaian kidney failure patients who should receive dialysis are not getting it. This crisis.
Good morning, Samson, and good morning to all your viewers and co-panelists. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. In fact, this situation is a very emotive issue, and so it stirs a lot of passion, and I can understand why members of the public were very upset with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital when the premature release of the fees. As we've stated, this was without the consent of management, but then there is some justification. We are going to go through the process. But then that brings us to a larger issue of how we fund renal care. For Kolebu Teaching Hospital, we have actually been quite proactive in this because there are about, on the registry, there are about between 700,000 patients on chronic dialysis in Ghana as we speak. And for this number, Kolebu Teaching Hospital takes care of about 350 of this number. So we see quite a large number of these patients, and most of them really do not have the means to afford. And that is why we reached out to some philanthropists, and the First Sky Group came to our assistance. And so for the last 6 years or so, 80% of the patients who come to Kolebu Teaching Hospital for renal dialysis do not pay any fees at all. They are funded under the First Sky Group policy. And so that is one way that we could, what we could do in our own way to try and, ease the burden on our patients. So
who is this First Sky Group doing such a godly thing for citizens?
Yeah, so in fact, they really need a commendation because they've been doing this consistently over the last 6 years. And in fact, during the COVID period, when even there was a crunch financial crunch, many companies went down. In fact, they did so well. They even prioritized paying for dialysis over even paying salaries. So sometimes they had to put their salaries on hold just to be able to support us to keep these patients alive, because, if these patients do not get dialysis, most of them are going to pass away. So we are grateful to them. And there's a group that owns, I know you say I'm doing an advert for them, but they own Water Serene and the Serene Insurance, and then they also have some construction arm. And so they've been coming.
Please, if we have to repeat this advert so many times, we should repeat it for them. There's no offense in that. Right.
Exactly. So
as much as 80% of those who come for dialysis care at Kolebu are getting it free because of the Sky Group. That's what you said. Okay.
Yes,
okay. Right. So to this very important part, Dr. Nsiasari mentioned that you have had the privilege of meeting with the president, and it does appear that some of your immediate urgent concerns are going to be taken care of. What are the signals that you get the immediate help? What is the immediate help you need at Kolebu to start with?
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. And so I'm sure you heard some of the patients talk about the number of machines and sometimes having to wait, for services. So in Kolebu, we actually have a number of areas that have dialysis machines. So there's a main dialysis cabin, which has 10 machines. And then we have one at the old medical block. And then the cardio unit has got 10 machines. And then we have single unit machines in a couple of the ICUs, so that these are used, but those are used infrequently. But then the mainstay of the service is the renal dialysis cabin. And we have the potential of bringing in another, under the current contractual arrangement, we have the potential of bringing in another 45 dialysis machines and other ancillary equipment to improve the quality of dialysis care that we provide. And we can do this if we're able to pay our
current debt of about 4 million Ghana cedis. So that's the immediate injection that we need to be able to stay afloat. But then going forward, because
you said 4 million what?
Ghana cedis, please.
Ghana cedis.
Yes, please.
Does that take your debt burden away so you can continue to do, or this is a monthly thing? I want to understand that because I didn't get that clearly.
Okay, so this is a historical debt that has accumulated.
Okay.
Before we got to this point, the supplier had started withholding supplies of the renal consumables because of this outstanding debt. Now, how did we get this debt? This debt has arisen because during the COVID period, because of the financial account, of course, our main benefactor had some challenges in meeting the payments, although he did his best, and we are really acknowledge that. And then we cannot blame him for that. This was something that's beyond immediate. So because of that delay in payments, so the commitment has been made in cedis. So due to the sharp fluctuation in the exchange rate, although the amount was paid, in terms of its value, in terms of the foreign exchange component, the value has significantly dropped. So this meant that we still had a significant debt to settle in that regard. And so that is how come this 4 million debt has accumulated, which has resulted in the folding of some of these critical supplies. But then, so this 4 million would help us settle the old debts, which will enable these other extra machines and equipment to be released to us to improve the service.
Yeah, so we understand you had an urgent audience with the president or the presidency. How soon will this be done for those who are looking up to this to live?
Yeah, so we are hoping that this will be done within the next few weeks. In fact, it can be done earlier, but we are still engaged in discussion. We'll be asked to come back, do some work and come back. And so once we go back, I will keep the people of Ghana updated as to the situation. But then going forward, in terms of recovery of cost, if we are to maintain, because of the number of sessions we do, we actually run about 2,000 dialysis sessions every month. So looking at the current charges, we'll be running a deficit of 961,000 cedis every month if we are to continue with the current prices. And so for us to be able to
the current price, which is 380 Ghana cedis, and you were hoping that you get approval for 765 Ghana cedis.
Yes, in fact, that was a proposal, and that we said we knew that definitely probably there will be some tweaking here and there, but this was our proposal.
Right.
Definitely, the price will come after.
Yeah. So finish the point on the sustainability.
Yeah. So in terms of sustainability, so if we are to maintain the current pricing, then it means we will need a subsidy of 761,000 cedis every single month. And then I even looked at for the entire Ghana, if we use even the benchmark price of just around 600 Ghana cedis, for you to be able to pay for dialysis care for the registered about 700, 800 patients who are on regular dialysis, you need an amount of about 3.4 million cedis every month to cover the cost of dialysis care for these patients. So those are the kind of numbers that we are looking at.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, CEO of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital there, speaking to us on the short term, what they need, immediate, and also in the long term, how this can be sustainable. Dr. Opoku Poma. Dr. Titus Bayo, a senior lecturer, University of Ghana Medical School and consultant gynecologist and clinical epidemiologist. I need to take my time to pronounce that. Doc, can we go to the jugular? There's been suggestion about whether they should get onto the National Health Insurance Scheme, which is already burdened, and there are also too many other diseases that are being suggested to be included, and so on. What for you will be the magic bullet to ensure that we don't have this situation where 90% of dialysis, of patients who need dialysis are not getting the dialysis?
Yeah, thank you very much, Samson, and good afternoon to the co-panelists and to the viewers. To go straight to the point, that statistic you just released meant that there's an unmet need of 90%, which means for every one of the dialysis patients we see, 9 others didn't start at all, and they had to die. Right. And if you're a doctor, you understand how painful that is. If you make a diagnosis for a patient and the patient tells you, just let me die, where there is treatment for the condition, it's very painful. So I think I am of the considered opinion that the NHIA can handle the cost of dialysis. However, the scheme must be supported. Currently, the scheme pays a woeful amount of 1,189.181 Ghana cedis for acute renal dialysis. Now, this is woefully inadequate because just to get even the femoral catheter that would allow them to dialyze is about 700 cedis. You may need 3, 4, 5 sessions. And if you look at the total cost, it's far in excess of this amount that they are paying. So how can the scheme be supported to provide this? I think the very first thing is that we need to repeal that act that permits government to cut the scheme's contribution, the revenue that they get. I think it's one of the most unacceptable situations that we can find ourselves in. That of every revenue that they collect, first they tested the pulse of the nation by capping it at 25% of tax revenue. And then when nothing was done, they further reduced it to 17.5% this year. If things continue this way, it will get to a point where the cap will come down to 1%. Now, in 2021, according to the Ghana Health Service own report, or the Ministry of Health, Holistic Health Assessment, they paid only 6% of what was supposed to go to the NHIS, for an insurance scheme that's supposed to invest money and help people in their time of need. How can that sustain it? So if we remove that cap and let all the resources that is due to the NHIS get to the NHIS, then we can open up a discussion with the general population, very sincere, frank, depoliticized discussion on whether the NHIS can sustain this or not.
And you are talking brutally about increasing the premium.
Yes, but there should be no discussion on increment of premium when we are capping it. What is the justification when you cap the revenue that's supposed to come to the NHIS and ask for increased premium? And you take 85%, now 87 point something percent, and then you are giving them 6% in 2021 and you ask for increased premium. Increased premium to finance what? And I'm sure that the average Ghanaian will be more comfortable to discuss increased premium if they are sure that when they get the critical illness that they cannot take care of themselves. Many people can manage malaria on their own, but acute kidney dialysis, medical doctors cannot afford this. I bet many lawyers cannot afford this for 2 years. They may start, but soon they will give up. So the first one would be to look at that capping principle. The second is that the NHIS is over 20 years old. We must review the benefit package of the NHIA. And we should use existing priority setting tools, i.e. cost-benefit analysis, disease burden analysis. Then we'll realize that some critical conditions like dialysis, intensive care management, where most people cannot sustain this on their own, need to be added. And we may have to take off others. Currently, what happens in addition of things to the NHIA is that the disease that gets the loudest advocacy gets added. You make noise about breast cancer, they add it. You make noise about childhood cancer, they add it. Today is noise about acute renal, chronic renal failure, they will add it. And we are not doing an analysis of the sustainability of this scheme, which is the only way that some people can access help. So that thorough analysis must be done.
Okay.
I think my very final word will be that we should consider prevention, because no matter what we do, if we don't prevent acute chronic renal failure, if we put it on the NHIS, it cannot sustain it at the current figures.
All right.
So we should put a lot of emphasis on the non-communicable diseases management in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Titus Bayu, Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Medical School, Consultant Gynecologist and Clinical Epidemiologist. Also, Dr. Opoku Ware Ampoma, Chief Executive Officer, Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We thank you also very much, and we know that those who matter are listening, are watching, and we should be doing what is important. I have just a minute to donate to my guests in the studio to hear them say the bigger policy issues about it, because they are the ones who are determining policy. So starting with you, Richard, And I heard Dr. Kwame Sidusapong say that health insurance is supposed to take care of you when you are in the most critical need. We have a health insurance that is taking care of the things that are not our most critical need. Yet it's being capped and not enough premium, and it doesn't cover as many people to contribute as possible.
Right. Well, thank you. So it's a very, very emotive conversation, and I think that we'll all come to it with that understanding, bearing what can be done to support people in those circumstances. And I know the pulse of this government is always to try and support the vulnerable. And from the meeting that was had with the president, I'm confident that something positive will come out of this. It's a difficult situation, but I think a couple of things can be done. Maybe preventive policy on that end would be useful. Is by and large there is some element of lifestyle choices related to that, and so maybe focusing on policy to promote prevention, education, to get people to be aware when they are healthy that these are decisions you have to make to prevent getting to that place. I think can be a policy option that we'll look at in our schools, maybe to try to educate people on making positive or better life choices. Also, in investments in procuring the equipment and maintaining them well. I think my understanding now is that just about 3 hospitals, apart from private sources, Kolebu, Cape Coast Teaching, and then Kofanoche are the places.
And 4 regions, no dialysis machines at all.
So those are very grim prospects that we have to look at. But as I said to you, at the pulse of this government, what I've seen it do, what I know it can do and will do, is to try and champion the cause of vulnerable people.
Thank you. In the next minute.
Well, very quickly, I think one of the things that we ought to be doing is again to call on government, as we have done on several occasions. And in fact, John Mahama has made this call severally, that the government ought to decap funding that is targeted as planned to the National Health Insurance and indeed the GET Fund. There shouldn't be any reason why we should be capping revenue that we ourselves as a people have agreed should be channeled specifically into these very 2 critical areas of healthcare delivery and education. So I think that can be a start, because the more resources that would be available, the easier it would be for the scheme to take care of some of these challenges. We also need to look at granting tax waivers. I don't see why in Parliament we grant waivers for building plush hotels like the Pullman, group of companies are building all of these hotels, and we give companies that are coming to Ghana a lot of tax waivers, and yet when we are getting critical healthcare supplies, we are imposing taxes on those.
Sorry, but we have run out of time.
I will make an intervention. I think it's key. The NHI, it's one thing we have to look at. Elsewhere, insurance looks at pre-existing